Om Sadashiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Param Ishvaro Guratmeti Muchibeda Vibhagine Yom Abda Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Sava Vedanta Siddhanta Gocharam Tamagocharam Govindam Paramanandam Satguru Pranatoshmaham Om Shanti 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 Om Namaste. We begin today, page 151, verse 10. All bodies are projected by the power of Maya, or the Maya of the self, exactly like the projection occurring in the dream. There is no reason to establish the reality, whether it is a superior or inferior projection. There is no question of say if they are identical, if they are superior, one is superior to another. He's talking about different orders of reality which are projected. So we take the awakening world to be superior because we can get some knowledge. So, but it's not relevant to establish, superiority, inferiority, because in any case, all projections are unreal. That's the point here. Are we beginning here today? Is that the correct verse? Okay. Gaudapada is now entering into the second topic of the negation of the origination of the world. So for this, Gaudapada takes only one verse. The potter does not create the pot, but the potter creates the pot. The origination of the pot is clearly seen. Similarly, the jiva Atma is enclosed consciousness may not be created, but what about the physical body, the enclosure body? No? Should not the creation of the body be accepted just like the creation of the pot being made by the potter? No? Therefore, the origination of the body, thereby many bodies through many births, should be accepted. Then the origination of the five elements in the entire world should be also accepted. Consciousness may not be created, but should be the creation of the body and the world not accepted. So we are entering the second topic, okay? We are still working on the logical creation. So the purpose of these verses is to first negate the creation, origination of the jiva, and then the origination or creation of the Jagat. Yeah? And then we have seen all those previous verses showing the jiva is like the space within the pot, a space associated with the body-mind. Yeah? So using the analogy of the space, we could see that the space within the walls of the clay pot is no different from the space outside the walls of the clay pot. Therefore, there is no question of a beginning and an end of the jiva Atma. Considering that the pot one day breaks and dies. So the physical body will go, the body-mind complex is no longer being available for transaction, but it's said that the space remains the same. Likewise, the jiva Atma remains the same. Again, we need to go to break down this word jiva Atma into jiva and Atma. So all these analogies, this Upanishad, I mean, a lot of the analogies, most of the analogies, they are just there to reveal the nature of the Atma, of the jiva, as identical to the Atma of Brahman, Atma, the Paramatma, the Param, the absolute Atma. Yeah? So the Atma of the jiva is never created. But the question here is, okay, we can understand the Atma of the jiva is never really created. But how about the body-mind? The body-mind is born. I saw my son being born, you know, and I heard the story of when I was born as well, and so on. So we know that the potter can create the pot, and then it appears that he has created the space within the pot, or the builder creates a house, and then the space within the house appears to have been created by the builder. But the builder at the most creates the house, not the space, because the space was there, because the space is all pervasive. Huh? So the question now is, so how can we negate the creation of the body-mind complex? You know, is if we are talking about the negation of the jiva atma. So the atma of the jiva is easily understood not to have a beginning, not to have origination, not to have been created. Now, the inquiry is, how about the body-mind? Can we accept this? Consciousness may not be created, but should the creation of the body-mind and the world not be accepted? He's trying to say it should be accepted. Gaudapada explains the non-origination of the world logically by giving a different example. The purpose of the previous example of space was to show that Jiva Atma was not created, just as the pot space is not created. Again, so the previous example of space within the pot was that to show that the Atma of the Jiva was never created, the same way the pot within the space within the pot was never created. Once that is clearly understood, that example should be left behind. Every example serves only a limited purpose, okay? Adhyaropa and apavada. Even though the body is appearing and is experienced, it should not be concluded that the body exists and was originated. Gaudapada used the dream world as the example to explain the non-creation, the non-birth, the non-origination, or the non-existence of the jiva body-mind complex. And the world, he's negating both with one simple example. What's the example? The dream world. Because in the dream world, we have both. We have the world and the dreamer, the entity experience the dream world. So both of them, with that analogy, Gaudapada is going to reject not only the creation of the Jivatma, but the creation of the world. The dream world is appearing and experience, but one can never talk about the existence and the origination of the dream world. This was dealt with elaborately in the chapter 2, if we remember. The awakening world, including the jiva bodies, and the world should be understood in a similar manner, okay? So likewise, the dream world, we can never say, it had a beginning. No, it just appears, isn't it? It just appears, boom. The entity and the dream and the world, this entity is transacting within, just appears, okay? And where has it begun? And when and how it disappears. The awakened world includes the jiva bodies, and the world should be understood in the similar manner. All bodies and all objects of the world, of the physical world, do not exist. They are not created, but they appear because of what? Because of self-ignorance in the form of Maya Shakti. Okay, so in the case of the dream world, this ignorance occurs due to a certain power which belongs to Maya, but it has a different technical name, which is Nidra Shakti. And now another power of Maya, deceiving power of Maya, produce a certain self-ignorance that obstructs the clear understanding of the apparent nature of this projection, both in the dream state and the awaking state. Self-ignorance is what's going to attribute the notions of reality and the notions of creation or origination, irrespective of whatever difference are seeming there between the awake and the dream worlds. They are only mithya. Both worlds are mithya. They have what? They have a status as that which appears and it's available for experience and knowledge, but origination and reality of both these worlds is easily logically rejected, as we have seen in the previous classes. So both of them appear, both of them disappear. Therefore, is mithya. We have to remember the basic distinction, what distinguishes these Upanishad of the others. First of all, we have to understand that Vedanta very brilliantly introduced another category, which is not sat, which is not a sat, but it is mithya, okay? So mithya is that which is not totally unreal, unexistent, but it's not really existent in reality, but it is apparently existing, okay? Apparently existing, it is available for appearance and experience, and it is a show that keeps changing moment to moment, does not offer the Jiva Atma any sense of peace and security. Okay, that's the main purpose of all this analysis. So we don't want to depend on this world. So it appears and disappears. And in these Upanishads, the definition of mithya is what? Is that which is known by the grace of the true nature of this observer, the witnessing conscious principle, bless these apparent worlds with its adhisthana, the support, the screen, the mirror-like prakriti of Maya is going to appears everything, and it is captured in the human conscious mind, and everything is mithya. Why? Because I know it, and I objectify it, and I experience anything that I can know is mithya. So there are two principles. One is the subject, and the absolute nature of the subject is not the body or the mind. The subject is consciousness in its pure, limitless nature. So this consciousness is the proof, is the validation of this world, is the source of the world, and it blesses the world with apparent existence. Anything that I can know, I know due to consciousness, the only reality. Therefore, I and I alone validate the appearance of this world. Okay? So this is the definition of mithya in this Upanishad, as opposed to the definition of mithya in other Upanishads, which says that mithya is an effect of a cause. And the cause is Brahman, and the universe is the effect. And this is somehow rejected or simply retracted by in some Upanishad, not only this Upanishad, in several other Upanishads also do this retraction. So these two words, the waking world and the dream world, they are mithya. Why? Because I experience and I know it, and they appear and disappear, okay? And they are changing all the time. They do not offer intrinsic security or value. They just offer some provisory, temporary utility. And we need to interact in mithya because we don't have any other choice. The only field of interaction is mithya, is an appearance. No? And we have to transact in mithya, but we need to keep that perspective that it's not what it seems to be, and it does not contain intrinsic value that could resolve my samsaric condition, fear, and desires. So they are mithya. There is no logic that establishes that the awakened world is actually originated or created by any entity, much less Brahman. With this negation of the origination of the universe, through this example, this negation is over. To understand, so we have been negating the origination of the jiva. Now we have been lately negating the origination of the world. And now Swami Paramarthananda says that now it's over. We're going to enter another topic. To understand mithya, the following four conditions for mithya should be kept in mind. Existence is negated. Creation or origination is negated. Appearance and experience are accepted. And the cause for the appearance, which allows us experience and allows us attribution of utilitarian value to this order, is called avidya, which is the ignorance in respect to the three nature of this superimposition. Two examples were given: the space to show the jiva Atma was never created, and then the dream world to show that likewise the physical world was never created. This is a good subject and very good for nididhyasana, contemplation, contemplating on these two analogies, two examples. Anything from you guys? Are you guys satisfied? Are you still somehow not convinced by the logic and arguments presented by Gaudapada? Verse 11. Now he's going to enter into he's going to bring in the teachings of the five kosas. The five kosas, beginning with annamaya, are mentioned in Taittiriyopani.ad. The supreme Atma is revealed as the content of them, just like the space appears to be the content of all containers, let's say. Let me close this window because my guy is doing some work with some machine here. Okay, let's revisit the teachings on the five kosas, not in details because that's not the purpose here. It's just presenting, quoting some passage, scriptural teachings that support, okay? Now he's going to negate the origination of the jiva and the origination or creation of the jiva and the universe, quoting the scriptures. Remember, we're going to go logic, and then logic is going to do the job, and then later on we're saying, by the way, the scriptures are in support to the logic Gaudapada is just presenting here, okay? And we have learned to appreciate and have Shraddha in respect to the scriptures, even in respect to some statements such as Aham Brahmasmi, which usually takes some time for us to own and claim that as a fact. Now Gaudapada enters the third topic, which is negation of the creation of the jiva, quoting the scriptures. And then Swamiji, who likes very much to venture into science here and there sometimes, he said that logic and science have limitations. Taittiriyopani.ad says logic can never truly reveal the truth, truly the truth. The logic alone can never reveal the truth. There is Shastra Pramana for the negation of the jiva. So the truth is revealed by scriptural pramana, okay? Scriptural pramana is going to reveal the truth in regards to the nature of the Atma, the nature of the cosmos, okay? So logic can never really reveal the truth. So what kind of statement is that? If the scripture is mostly based on logic, the scripture does not call for blind faith or blind trust. The scripture calls for us to inquire and make questions until the intellect is fully satisfied with the logic presented by the scripture. So here it says logic and science. So he's talking to the academic logic or philosophical logic, science logic have limitations. Katha says that logic can never really reveal the truth. So this goes to the statement that says that academic, intellectual self-knowledge is not the end, but it is a mean, okay? So there is no problem with academic self-knowledge, which is based on logic, and the logic is present in the Upanishads. So the logic alone cannot really reveal the truth. There is something more that's going to bring about this revelation, this final revelation, okay? So, and this is done not only by philosophers, but it's done by association with the scriptures, which appear to be a philosophy on a certain level, okay? But that is early, it's just an initial stage, because as we know, philosophy or academic philosophy, it never really transformed the individual. I have been talking about that very often in my Brazilian group, because the goal of Vedanta is just presenting its logic, and some of its logic seems more like a science, and some other of its logic appears more like a philosophy. But in both way, in any way, the purpose of this Vedantic Pramana is to transform the individual by shifting individual's identity from the body-mind complex to the limitless consciousness, Satchitananda consciousness, okay? So if we stop at logic, if we stop at academic knowledge, we are not going to be satisfied. We need to go into Shastra Pramana to negate the origination of the jiva. And he's picking up some quotes. The verse 11 to 14 of this chapter 3 describes the negation of the creation of the jiva through scriptures. Gaudapada shows that in all the Upanishads, the central teaching is jivatma, paramatma, aikyam. So every Upanishad, all the four Vedas ends, with the final Mahavakyas, the final declarations of identity between Paramatma and Jivatma. So it means to say, what is there in common? So we talk about Jivatma and Paramatma, and then we say that there is an identity They are the same, IKEA. So what is in there? Even literally, reading the words, we say jiva, Atma, and Paramatma. What is the common denominator? The Atma. The Atma is the common denominator. The identity between is that they are the same consciousness. They're the same consciousness. There is only consciousness of non-dual nature, and Jivatma's consciousness is identical to Paramatma's consciousness. But Jivatma is so small and he knows very little about. Now, this is the body-mind complex. Body-mind-sense complex of the Jiva is limited like anything, okay, any other object we see Mithya. Yeah? But Jivatma has two natures. One is the nature as an object. What is the object? The object is the body-mind-sense complex that we, as consciousness, we are able to objectify. We are aware of the condition of our body-mind complex, body-mind-sense complex. So Jivatma has its higher nature, which is the absolute subject. So Jivatma is the subject and can be seen as an object depending on where he stands in terms of its identity, okay? So each Upanishad is centered around Mahavakyas that reveal the identity between Jivatma and Paramatma. The famous Mahavakya, as we know, is Tattvamasi in the Aham Brahmasmi and Ayam Atma Brahma. Some of the few others, there are others Mahavakyas all over. There are many such statements in the Upanishad, several Upanishads. All the traditional people, whatever may be their vision or their theories, all the schools, spiritual religious schools, regardless of their theories, accept that Paramatma is unborn. So he's saying that regardless of the difference between different darshanas, everyone accepts that Paramatma was never created. Deus is unborn. The human beings are born. Deus is unborn. God is eternal. Deus. God is eternal. God is unborn. And so Paramatma is unborn. No? Even other religions accept that God is unborn. It's not a created entity, but it is the creator of this cosmos. No? Because of the identity, this is a very beautiful logic presented here, and it presented in the scriptures. So Gaudapada is just unfolding it so that we can more easily accept our identity with Paramatma, okay? So because of the identity between Paramatma and Jivatma, if Paramatma is unborn, then Jivatma must also be unborn. We have established the identity, the Atma of the Jiva is identical to the Atma of Paramatma. Yeah? So now we have established that they are identical. And we have established that the universe was never created because it's just a superimposition of Namarupas on the screen of Paramatma consciousness. Yeah? So we have established that the universe was never originated or created. And we have established now by subjecting our intellects to all Upanishads and their statements of identity between Jiva, Atma, and Paramatma. So we have accepted, at least on an intellectual level, we have accepted that I, Jiva, Atma, am of the same nature as Brahman or Paramatma. So we have accepted that. We may be still working a little bit on some doubts or suspiciousness, but we have accepted that. Now, when we say that Paramatma is unborn, we must take by inference that Jivatma must be unborn as well. And of course, we are not referring to the body-mind complex of the Jivatma, but the Atma of the body-mind complex. Huh? because of the identity between Paramatma and Jiva-Atma, if Paramatma is unborn, then Jiva-Atma must be unborn. Gaudapada does not quote the most powerful verse from the Gita, verse 220, but quotes that the Taittiriya Upanishad. That Upanishad talks about 5 kosas. Later on, he is going to bring us this verse 220. The Upanishad talks about the 5 kosas in the 2nd chapter. It says that each session is for each kosha, session 1 to 5. Each section is for each kosha. Each kosha is a kind of enclosure, or it is a kind of, let's say, it's much easier when we divide the Jiva-Atma in 3 bodies, but with the 5 koshas teachings, we make this division in 5 parts, which is not much different. It's just more better unfolded. So it's as if the body, the jiva, has 5 bodies or 5 levels of experience by and through which it somehow develops a sense of identity with. Okay, so we as a waker, we have an identity with the body as the body. As a dreamer, we have an identity based on my identity with the subtle body, and as a deep sleeper, I identify with the causal body. So the 5 sheets are 5 levels or 5 kinds of different bodies. So the bodies here would be seen like the physical food body, and then the prana body, okay, and then the mental body, and then the intellectual body, and then the causal body. So we have the jiva being subdivided in 5 parts. Every kosha serves as a platform or enclosure. I don't like much this enclosure, but a body or an instrument by which the jiva experiences itself and the world. Okay, we experience ourselves in the world through the physical, okay, through our energetic pranas, all the energy, and then through our mental, emotional body, and then intellectual, and so on. So we have those experiences through those 5 koshas, okay? So after looking into these 5 koshas, beginning from annamaya, manamaya, pranamaya, yanamaya, vinyanamaya, and annamaya, and what is the last one? I escaped my mind now. Is the bliss.
Anandamaya.
Anandamaya. So we have all those levels of experience, and they come with consciousness associated with those different instruments or aspects of our human construct. Okay. So beginning with annamaya. After talking about each kosha, the Upanishad talks about the Atma, the consciousness principle experience all the 5 koshas produced by the power of Maya. That's why it's Pranamaya, Anandamaya, and Vinyanamaya, and everything you see that there is Maya. It's all Maya producing this experience of the phenomenal world. I, myself, consciousness, I am experienced through these 5 powers of Maya, these 5 koshas produced by Maya. So I must be the substratum. I must be something different from these 5 instruments by which I experience the world, and I tend to define myself through or by. Okay? So I, consciousness, am the true experience knowing entity, and I experience the world through the 5 koshas. Therefore, I am the inner substratum or the inner content, and I must be something other than the instruments by which I see or experience the world, sense the world. The same way that I must be something different from this pair of glass by which I can see the screen here. I experience the five koshas, so I must be something other than the koshas. This something other than the koshas is the Atma. I am there beyond and before the power of Maya produce all this magic show, which requires instruments but to be experienced. The witness consciousness is what I am. This inner, it goes for those who still need to understand consciousness as inside of the body, inside of the five koshas, but no, it is there pervading all the koshas and all the koshas and all the universe experienced by these five sort of instruments. They occur within consciousness, within the Atma. The inner Atma is Brahman. Later, this equation is made even more clear. Thus, Jivatma Paramatma identity is revealed in many Upanishads, including the Taitiriya. This Jivatma is never born, just as the Paramatma was never born, is never born. This was made clear earlier with the space of the logic present in the example, the analogy of the space within and without the walls of the pot. And that's now being presented by declarations in the Upanishads, which is common to several Upanishads. The identity actually is common to all ends of the Vedas. All Upanishads declares this identity between Jivatma and Paramatma. So in the beginning, the Vedanta student may have some trouble to trust these statements. But with time, we put these three teachings, the Pramana, the entire teachings to the test. And then gradually but surely, we developed trust and confidence in this teaching. This was made clear. So, and then Swami likes to play, to take it easy. It does not mean to say that you should not celebrate your birthday, but I am, guilt. I never celebrate my birthday. I don't want anybody remember my birthday because I was never born. I am limitless consciousness. We seen the play. Tá dormindo aí, Felipe? Você tá tomando Red Bull ou café naquela garrafa? Toma café, cara. Não toma camomila, não.
Coffee.
Coffee. Okie dokie. Okay, so we can celebrate our birthdays, no problem. We do the birthday, but we keep in mind that it's just a ritual, a protocol, and my understanding is I was never born because I am the Atma of the jiva, right? Not the jiva of the Atma. Okay, so he comes back to give us a revise here. The main ideas Gaudapada wish to establish here is Vedanta negates the existence and negates creation of this universe, which includes the jivas, and accepts the appearance and accepts the utilitarian value, the transaction, the experience available for transaction by which we can extract some utilitarian value within this mithya order of reality. So we need to find utilitarian value. What it means, utilitarian value, fundamentally, is that which elevates me spiritually and that which is going to decline me spiritually. So the very, very wise seeker of truth is looking for that kind of utilitarian value within mithya. And what is the most valuable thing in mithya is the scriptures. They reveal the scriptures that establish the identity between jiva, Atma, and Paramatma. The cause of the appearance is due to ignorance. This ignorance is very hard to be understood. I'm inclined to believe that Maya Ishwara alone cannot pull it off. It somehow does so in a joint venture with the jivas. Okay, the apparent jivas, which appear to be beginningless, anadi, such as the universe is beginningless, and we see the appearance. It's all appearance, apparently beginningless. And then this beginningless jiva, which is logically not really acceptable, but we take it to be exactly like the dream world. The dream world we experience, and it has no beginning. It just like, boom, shows up to the party, and then we say, oh my God, not again. I have to go through another dream. So I was sleeping, enjoy my annamaya, kosha. Now I have to run to gain something or escape from something here in this dream. So it appears. And this appearance is due to ignorance. So how this ignorance manifests itself in the dream state? Residual ignorance. So we know that we interact with the waking world through vasanas, and not for us, but for most people, they are fully based on out self-ignorance. And those vasanas, they develop vasanas, tendencies. Those tendencies they are going to produce, which is avidya, ignorance. They produce another order, the dream order of reality, which is created by the same ignorance, okay, which is my my impressions, which are based on desires and aversions for certain kinds of experience. Atma avidya, the ignorance in respect to the true nature of the I, the self, produce these different words. It's mula vidya, it's the original ignorance, maya, or self-ignorance. Of these 4 points, the second point is taken up here. The origination of the world is to be negated, okay? So we have negated already the origination of the jiva. Now we are working on negating the origination of the world, and this has already concluded. This is just a summary of what we have just seen. Gaudapada has already properly pointed out that not only jivas are not created, but jagata is also not created, even though it appears to be created. This is the theory of instant projection, rather than the theory of evolution. So the world appears, and then they keep changing from moment to moment. The appearance of this world within this mithya world gives us the notions of evolution, which is adaptations, modifications. To convey this mithya appearant nature of creation, Gaudapada took the second example, the dream world. The dream world is really not created, but it is an appearance. It appears in front of us every night. Similarly, this universe is also not really created, but it appears every time we get out, we come out in the awakened state every day, or with the birth of another body mind, and then the world appears. In the beginning, we don't understand what we are seeing, touching, smelling, but then later on, our mind develops, and then we start going through the same the same samsara. Therefore, Jagata, origination Jagata, negates with the help of the dream example, as we have seen. And there is no superior jiva or inferior jiva. There is no superior world or inferior world. Then both the dream world and the awakening world, they are just mithya. They are both projections made out of maya, no? Gaudapada also says that the Upanishads convey the same meaning. Jivatma is not created out of Paramatma, even though we feel that Jivatmas are created. We feel that Jivatma was born, and we pray that this birth, this janma, should be our last one. Yeah? In the West, people do not pray for that kind of thing, because people, they would like to live forever as a body mind sense complex. And then once they accept this fundamental law that anything that's born must die, and the jiva of the jiva atma, the body mind sense complex, is born, and it's destroyed in the end. But then most people say, oh no, but now I made peace with the notion of reincarnation, and I want to come back again. No? So very rarely you're gonna find someone who pray for this janma, this birth, to be one's last one. Latent desires for continuation, vasanas for more experience, is what brings us again into this apparent order, mithya order of reality. Gaudapada says that we assume birth. So if we take ourselves to be the body mind sense complex, we take the birth to be a fact, and then we hope for a better rebirth. But we want to be born again in a better circumstance, better condition, and the wheel of samsara does not end. Jiva will not have, the truth is the Atma of the jiva will not have any rebirth, because the jiva Atma was never born, okay? So as we can see, it's so simple, Vedanta. We are made of the spirit and matter/energy. So our material nature is going to be construct and deconstruct again and again. The construction is referred to as birth, and the destruction or deconstruction is referred to as death. But the Atma of the jiva was never born and never died. Okay, so that's the fundamental knowledge to be gained and properly assimilated. Okay, so you will never get a rebirth because you were never born. So this statement is absolute truth, but it does not help people who somehow are still densely identified with the body mind sense complex. Okay, the body mind sense complex, under the spell of desires and aversions, under the spell of desire for continuation, will get another birth. Okay, and thanks God it does not remember the previous one, but because it's already a lot to remember everything we go through in one single birth. Just imagine to remember everything we have gone through in all births, So jiva will never be reversed because jiva was never born. That points to the Atma of the jiva. Okay, the Atma of the jiva. Therefore, this statement is truth from the standpoint of the Atma of the jiva. What is the difference between the Atma of the jiva and the jiva of the Atma? There is no difference. Okay. So jiva Atma in its essential, true, intrinsic nature, identity is Atma. Jiva is Atma appearing through, this instrument of knowledge / experience, which is the human intellect. The jiva Atma, Watchma, never gets in reverse, but ignorance is going to construct again and again new body-mind constructs. How does one know that this is the message of all Upanishads? All the Upanishads directly point out that the Jivatma Paramatma is identical in their essential nature. The essence of Jivatma and the essence of Paramatma is one and the same. The essence of the ocean, the essence of the waves is one and the same, is water. Okay? So all Upanishads come to this final conclusion. If these two are one and the same, how could it be said that Jagat is born, or that one is born out of the other? Now he's talking about how can we say that Paramatma is born out of Jivatma, or Jivatma is born out of Paramatma. Now we can go to the extreme to say, okay, so maybe Jivatma was not born out of Paramatma, but Paramatma was born out of Jivatma. No, they are the same. They are just two names for the same Atma, right? When both of them are only two words referring to the one self, one consciousness, one Turiya, one Atma, how can we talk about Jiva-Atma being originate or create from Paramatma? They are the same in their essential nature. But how about the construct? How about the body-mind complex? How about the pot? The space within the pot was never created, but how about the pot? The pot was created, so the body-mind sense complex was created, and that's where we stopped in our previous paragraph before Swami Paramarthananda stepped back to revise a little bit. That is misconception. All of our sadhanas are not for removing rebirths, but for removing our misconception regarding the birth, death, and rebirth of my conscious existence. My conscious existence is not subject to death and rebirths. Only the instruments used by this apparent conscious existence is used. So the essential intrinsic nature of Jiva-Atma is Paramatma. So this is the declaration presented by all Upanishads. This is a very important point. I get freedom not from rebirth, but from the misconception that I was ever born and I will ever be born again. And that is only possible with a clear understanding of what belongs to Satya, what belongs to Mithya. Otherwise, we make a certain confusion or superimposition, and we start tripping, believing that the body-mind was never born, and the body-mind will never be reborn. No, it's the Atma of the body-mind will never be born again. We should never transfer the attributes of Mithya to Satya and Satya from Mithya. We need to understand these statements very, very clearly and wisely. I get freedom not from rebirth, but from the misconception that I was ever born as consciousness and I will be ever born again as consciousness. Okay, I got this knowledge. This knowledge is firm, clear, and not subject to forgetfulness. Therefore, my residual, whatsoever residual ignorance sitting in my causal body will not have the power to produce another birth. What produces another birth of another instrument of experience is residual avidya, deposits as vasanas that are going to call for more of the same samsara. Let's go to the verse 12. In the Madhubrahma.am Upanishad, the supreme Brahman is revealed in pairs. And the pairs here refers to locations. Okay? Just as the space within and without the pot space, the walls of the clay pot. Now, here it's presented as the supreme Brahman, the supreme Turiya, the supreme Atma, is revealed as the same as in the micro, so as in the macro and micro. Okay, and then he presents the space within the stomach is identical to the space sustaining the entire cosmos. Okay, so as within, as without. This Upanishad divides the world into several pairs belonging to the individual plants. So I never got in contact with even the name of this Upanishad. I just explored this concept about this duality between micro and macrocosm, and then the microcosm and the correspondent macrocosm. So all of that to say that the consciousness is the likewise space consciousness, is the same within my stomach as all over the universe. Normally, we use the wave and ocean example, which is a better and nicer example. The wave and the ocean. One is Satya, one is Mithya. One is one Namarupa, is the micro Namarupa wave, and the other is the macro Namarupa ocean. And then what is common between the micro Namarupa wave and the macro Namarupa ocean is the water. Water is the essence of both the wave and the ocean Namarupas. So in this Upanishad, for anybody interested, it takes several pairs in terms of locations to determine that Turiya consciousness Brahman or Paramatma is all pervasive, even in the subatomic structure of the atoms. It's the same space, it's the same consciousness, it's the same existence. To illustrate this essential identity between Paramatma and Jiva-atma, Gaudapada points out the space in our stomachs is not different from the space all over the earth, all over the cosmos, in the same space. So these rishis are quite something. They have some of them have some peculiar ideas and start looking at the space in the microcosm and then expand to the macro to prove that it's the same. Oh, I just realized it is raining now. Verse 13, the known difference between jiva and the atma. How interesting. Here he's not calling jiva atma, he's called jiva and the atma. So we put those two together, we call jiva atma. The moment that we put those words together and then we have jiva atma, and then the jiva must realize that the jiva is not the jiva, but is the atma. You understand? So the known difference between the jiva and the atma is praised through all the statements of identity. No? And all statements of identity are going to praise the identity of jiva and atma, and will reject duality and plurality. Such a teaching, which is mentioned above becomes consistent in this way only. So the teaching establishing the identity between jiva and atma, or jiva atma and paramatma, is praised through all Mahavakyas of the Upanishads, and the plurality, duality is rejected. Only this teaching, yeah, is consistent to produce self-knowledge and moksha. Consistent teaching. So such a teaching which is mentioned above becomes consistent. This teaching becomes consistent. So establishing the consistency of the same Mahavakyas, the same declarations of identity through all Upanishads. All Upanishads are going to be consistent, establishing this identity between Jiva and Atma. Okay, that's what it means to say. Gaudapada say the Jiva Atma Paramatma identity is repeatedly stated through all Upanishads in the form of Mahavakyas, Rig Veda, Mahavakyas, and then he mentioned some of the Mahavakyas, okay? The most famous is Aham Brahmasmi and Tatvamasi, which appears, and Atharvana Veda Mahavakya is Ayamatma Brahma, which is the Mahavakya appearing in the Mandukya Upanishad. All of the four Vedas repeatedly say that Jivatma and Paramatma are one in a sense, is one and the same. After revealing the identity, the Upanishads glorify that knowledge by saying that this knowledge and only this knowledge presented and contemplated systematically and consistently will reveal itself and liberate a person. By knowledge and knowledge alone, the self can be realized and the person can be liberated. Who said that? Swami? Swami, no, I tend to call him Swami. Just Ramana Maharaj. Yeah. The life would become meaningful only if this knowledge is gaining, big, bold. The life becomes really meaningful only if we gain, we own, we claim this identity as Brahman. If you miss this knowledge, this one human life becomes meaningless, because all of the other things that you acquire in this Janima birth cannot be carried with you. Wait a moment, Swamiji. He's saying here that if you miss this knowledge, this human life becomes meaningless, because any and everything else you acquire, you are not going to carry with you. But what about mental, emotional, and intellectual refinement and purification, development of qualifications, purification, preparedness, maturity? Maturity is never lost. He is making reference to the samsaris who have no value for this process, this Vedantic process of the spiritual elevation. If the person has no spiritual inclination to go through this process, he is going to gain many things in this world, but nothing will be carried with the person to the next birth. But if we enter this process, any and everything we gain here is retained in the soul, individual soul. If the soul is not completely, quote unquote, dissolved in Brahman, as Brahman, we see this very birth. Jiva-Atma is not born out of Paramatma. On the other hand, Jiva-Atma is Paramatma. After glorifying this identity, the Upanishad strongly criticize those who see Jiva-Atma, Paramatma difference, saying that they will continue to be samsaris. The Katha Upanishad, it makes a strong statement about that. There are many schools that praise, all dualistic school praise the difference between Jiva-Atma and Paramatma, and they think that Vedantins are crazy to establish this identity. And here, Gaudapada or Swami Paramarthananda or Shankaracharya, because these studies Swamiji does are based usually on the commentaries of Shankaracharya. The Upanishad strongly criticize those who see the Jivatma Paramatma difference, saying that they will continue to be samsaris. In Katha Upanishad, it said that which is here alone is there. What is in here is there and there. What is within your stomach is there in the stars. That which is here is there alone. That which is there is alone, is here. One who sees plurality, duality, and difference goes from that to that. If we see Dvaita, if we see division, if we see separation, we are going to be reborn. That's the point. Why? Because I'm still attributing reality to duality, reality to this samsara, no matter if it is a mundane samsara or spiritual samsara or sacred samsara, So, annamaya samsara. So everybody who sees duality, who sees division, separation, and the I, myself, and the Jiva-Atma and the world, will be reborn again. Thus, the identity is glorified and the difference, Advaita is glorified and Dvaita is criticized, and identity is the base of all Upanishadic teachings. The oneness of Jiva-Atma and Paramatma is revealed through all Mahavakyas, and it is glorified as the only meaningful knowledge which will somehow pacify the human condition. Not only that, the difference is criticized. From this, Gaudapada concludes that the Upanishads also support his earlier statement that Jiva-Atma was never born. So that's where we stop. And we begin from the following verse 14. This coming Friday. Ishwara willing, unless we fall in love with the Gita and we say, oh no, let's do twice a week Gita and once a week Upanishad. We decided tomorrow. Okie dokie. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti 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 Om. Namaste. We'll meet you again soon. Tomorrow, same time, huh? I'm not even going to send a message. I have a student of mine making the cover for our Gita. If I get that cover, I send you the cover with the message. Okay. Namaste.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Arlinda. Bye now.